It's 11 o'clock, and I think we should start on time. So good morning, everyone. My name is Josh McCowan. I'm the Associate Provost for International Education and Programs at SUNY Oswego. I also teach in the Global and International Studies Department. I'm going to introduce very briefly what this program is, and I'm going to turn it over. There are two sessions this morning. We have about 15 to 20 minutes for each one, and time for Q&A at the end. For that, two outstanding staff members in the Office of International Education and Programs are going to facilitate each of these sessions. The first will be facilitated by Kelsey Gillette, and the second by Jessica Hernandez. So with that, I'm going to turn this program over to Kelsey first, and she'll make the introductions and set the stage for us. Kelsey?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelsey Gillette. I'm a program coordinator in the Education Abroad office. And for the first part of our presentation today, it's called From Oz to Abroad, and it's about overcoming the 5 F's of study abroad, or 6 F's, I guess, in this case, we've decided. So to give you a little background, and before I get into our two speakers, I'll let you know that when we're talking about the F's of study abroad, there's certain obstacles that often stop students from considering study abroad, and these barriers are often referred to as the F's of study abroad, sometimes the 4 F's or the 5 F's. It's a term coined by Dr. Margery Ganz from Spelman College, and these barriers, these F's that we're talking about, the 4 basic ones tend to be friends, family, fears, and funds. And for this presentation, we've added 2 more F's to the mix, so the fit and faculty. And these can be things that you'll see as we present can pose barriers to students thinking that study abroad is not for them or it's not going to work for them. So this presentation will be focused on 2 study abroad alumni, SUNY Oswego students, Awa Dembele and Fadi Gaye, and they're going to expand upon their own experiences with each of these F's and how they were challenged by these obstacles, but also how they overcame these obstacles. So without further ado, I will let the presenters introduce themselves. So I'll start with you, Awa. If you could just give us a little background, your class year, your major, and where you studied abroad.
So hey guys, my name is Awa Dembele. I am a criminal justice and sociology major. I'm also the class of 2021 fall semester. And I studied abroad in the Czech Republic, Brno, Czech Republic, and the fall of 2019.
Awesome, thank you. And the other presenter, Fadi, go ahead and give us your class year and your major and where you studied abroad.
Hi, my name is Fadi. I'm part of class 2021, so therefore this May I should be graduating. And my major is wellness management with a minor in bio. And I studied abroad twice. I studied abroad to Nice, France, spring 2028, and then I studied to Benin, West Africa, 2020. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you guys. So we'll get right into the first question, and we'll just answer in that order for the first question. So Awa, you could give your answer first, and then Fadi, you could follow. So what was the most challenging F that you faced before you left for abroad? And then how did you overcome that first F challenge that you had?
Okay, I'm sorry, I live in New York City. If I'm keeping it like 100, I would definitely say that the one F that kind of like had me really taken back was definitely fear. So I was one of those people who had applied for study abroad along with a friend. And, I was like, definitely all for, I was like, me and my friend, we're going to go do this together. We've never really, been out the country alone before. And like, we could always just do it together. So, of course, when, the application process came out things kind of started shifting. My friend was a year ahead of me. So, some of her credit requirements didn't really add up with the Czech Republic program. And, she ended up just not being able to go. And that kind of like put me into a whole panic to the point where I was like, oh, I don't even think I want to go. Like, I don't want to go myself. Like, I don't know nobody out there. I'm going to be scared. And it's funny because the person who actually talked me out of it is actually Fadi. Because, Fadi and I lived in Hart together. And I think she was my next door neighbor too. And she was just like, oh, I went to her and I was like, Fadi, I got accepted into the program. And, I'm not sure if I want to do this because I don't want to go alone. And Fadi was like, first of all, let's quit that right now. Let's quit that right now, because how you going to say you don't want to go? Like, you go into a whole nother country. It's okay. Because, Fadi definitely did study by herself. And she was like, listen, like, I went by myself. Nothing happened to me. I was sad, but, I got over it. And I was like, okay, you're right. So, after speaking with Fadi, I was like, you know what, let me just take this leap. Let me just take this chance. And, I decided to do it. And honestly, one of the best decisions of my life. So thank you, Fadi.
That's awesome. And I think Fadi at that time was even a study abroad mentor in the office as well, which is good. So I think, for your first F, it was fear, but also kind of friends a little bit, because you were planning to go with that friend and then you thought maybe you didn't have that support. So that's awesome. Fadi, what about you? What was the most challenging F that you faced before you left, and how did you overcome it?
You're welcome, Awa. I had a few. I have three. So one was funds. Another one, I guess you could say, was being behind my classes. So I always had a goal that I wanted to graduate within my 4 years. And I'm also minoring in bio, and I'm taking wellness management courses. And a lot of the courses didn't they didn't align with the classes that I wanted to take in order for me to graduate in degree works. And another one was language. So I was thinking about going to France. I've never taken a French course. I'm like, how am I going to go to a country where I don't even speak the language? I'm not going to be able to articulate for myself. Another one was funds. I'm currently working to pay my tuition off here. How in the world am I going to be able to afford in another country where I could barely afford to go to school here? And then another one, like I said, was credits. But after going to the study abroad office, they were able to answer all my questions, just to find out I was able to take classes that actually did, align with my bio and wellness management courses. There were a whole bunch of scholarships that they said I could apply to, such as like the Get Go, which is practically a free grant that you're most likely going to get. And another one is language. I still speak French prior going to there, but when I was there, I was able to learn and take baby steps. So from someone who's a huge overthinker, I had all these fears and all these F's, but just overthinking it.
Yeah, I think you're right, Fadi. All of those challenges that you faced before you left, just with the proper planning in advance, talking with your advisors, talking with study abroad coordinators, talking with the mentors in the office, you were able to make a plan for all of those things, and then not just study abroad successfully once, but twice. So definitely proof that you can overcome those things. So going to the next question, Fadi, you can answer first this time. So while you were abroad, did you experience the same Fs that you had anticipated, or did your challenges kind of change once you got there?
Funds and classes were already taken care of. My biggest F that bothered me was language, which is French. So like I said, I went to France and they will speak the language at all. So there were times where I went to the supermarket and I'm like, oh, where can I find the cheese or whatever? And they're looking at me like, fromage. And I'm like, cheese. They're like, fromage. And I'm like, I'm pretty tall and I'm an adult. So not being able to articulate myself the way that I want to was just very frustrating at first. But so yeah, that was a struggle for me. But within a few weeks, I was able to catch on baby words. So after a while, I was like, yes, oui, fromage, where can I find it. So after a while, I was able to like, get there, and it actually boosted my confidence when I came back, because I'm like, dang, I just studied abroad to a whole nother country where I couldn't like speak the language or articulate for myself. So me coming back to like SUNY Oswego, I'm like, I could speak English, way more than I could speak French. So I kind of felt like there's nothing that I can't do, because now I'm in a place where like there's a whole bunch of resources I can articulate for myself as much as I want to. Like, who's really like telling me anything at this point? So like my confidence really helped. So that was a fear, but it helps for the better.
That's awesome. Yeah, you learn how to communicate in other ways besides just words, and like you said, I'm glad I was able to boost your confidence and help you upon your return. What about you, Awa? Did your fears or your anticipated challenges change when you got there?
I want to say, like, when I got there, it's like all the F's, like, it didn't even like matter. It didn't even show up at all. Like once I got out there, because me personally, as much as I like to tell myself, that I don't really like to socialize with people, I talk a lot and I kind of like to talk sometimes. So when I got out there, my whole thing was more so just being alone. I want to say literally like the day I landed, like my roommate was just so like open, we hung out a lot. And then of course, like as we started branching out into like meeting other people from other countries as well, I started like socializing with other people. So off the rip, like being alone didn't even like cross my mind anymore, because I had literally so many different people to like talk to. And then when you do study abroad, like 9 times out of 10 there will be people from your own country back there. So I had a lot of American friends out there that I could have been in communication with, that I did stay in communication with while I was down there. And all the other F's, I mean, I don't know. I'm the type of person, I don't really like to go into things with expectations. So, I kind of just, go into things with an open mind, because usually when you set expectations, you don't really have a good time, especially when things don't go your way. So, I've always been that person where it's just like, let me just worry about this one F. I mean, fear was the only thing that kind of had me like kind of stuck. But, I literally overcame that the day I decided to, pack my bags, book a plane ticket and go over there. So off the rip, that kind of like just canceled itself out. Like all the other F's didn't really come up. I'm trying to think. All the other F's didn't really come up. Maybe towards the end of my trip, maybe, I started to, miss my family just a little bit. But, that was probably just it. But yeah, everything else was perfect.
That's good. I think, you're explaining how the thing that kind of scared you the most, I feel like you just tackled it head on. You were afraid of being alone or being on your own. And, I know from being your coordinator, like you said, you got right into it, making friends and meeting people. Awa ended up being essentially an RA for her residence hall while she was overseas. So I think that is valuable advice. Like, you might be scared of something, but if you face that fear and do what you can to tackle it, like you're saying, you were successful with it. So that's good. That's good advice. And that leads to the last question that we have for both of you. And it's just for students who are thinking about studying abroad or interning abroad or just traveling abroad in some way, but are facing those fears or funds, or, they have concerns about how the program fits, or maybe they are concerned with the funding, all of those F's that we talked about. What advice would you give overall to a student who's facing some of those F's themselves? Awa, why don't you go first?
Okay, perfect. In terms of just, some of the F's, I'll probably tackle maybe just 2 of those. In terms of just, like funds and stuff like that, definitely just ask questions. I feel like so many people, that's what a lot of people don't do, is ask questions. And I feel like that can go for each of these F's. If you just ask questions and, you ask the right people, then you are more than likely to get a really good response. Because, a lot of these, a lot of people in the study abroad office, Kelsey, Lizette, Jessica, all of them kind of like, not even kind of, all of them know exactly what they're doing, right? They work there. So, if you need help with funding, or if funding is, you do have to meet with like the financial advisor for study abroad. And, you know, just ask them questions about funding. Like you'll be surprised how many scholarships and how many resources is out there for you to be able to literally fully fund your experience. And like, you don't even know it. In terms of fear, I want to say, just go for it. Honestly, just go for it, because I learned, like, now that I've like finished my study abroad experience, like I'm a lot more confident in terms of, listen, like if I'm planning a trip and we said we're gonna book on, you know, April 14th, and you don't have your money to book on April 14th, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to catch me there. Because if you wait for people, you're never gonna, I swear to God, you're never gonna go if you wait for other people, because it's like people just don't have that drive. And being that I've had a taste of what it's like to be abroad, and I've had a taste of what it's like to literally travel around Europe on my own, it's like I don't have the time to wait on other people. I just don't have that time. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. You know, if you wait on other people to create your experience, then you won't really have an experience. So I think literally, like, in terms of like fear, like, just do it. Even if you're going by yourself, that's completely fine. Because guess what? There's like literally most people who study abroad actually do go by themselves. So definitely you won't be alone. You know, go out there with an open mind. Do not have any expectations, because sometimes you might be disappointed. And, you know, literally make your experience. Like, don't allow other people to make your experience. And, you know, that's all I got to say.
That's really good advice. What about you, Fadi? What do you think you would give advice to somebody who's thinking about it but still has some of these concerns?
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. Literally, just like Nike said, just do it. Like, just do it. You staying in your comfort zone and overthinking is not gonna get you anywhere. And like I mentioned, especially if you're so worried about like classes interlining, aligning with your degree works, definitely just go ahead and ask for help, especially for someone who's doing STEM and wants, like, who aspires to become a pediatric physician assistant. That was one of my biggest concerns, like, oh my gosh, how is this bio course gonna, you know, get back and transfer over to this? Like, until I actually went to Lizette and asked her, like, she was like, you know what, why don't you try going to the registrar's office and trying to do that? Like, you never know unless you ask for help. And even if you're scared of asking, like, faculties, there's study abroad that mentors that you could just ask for. There's SAMs who can advise you. But my main advice is to just do it. It's so easy for us to come up with a whole bunch of pre-notions and overthink about a whole bunch of stuff. Even with my trip to Benin, you can ask Megan. I was so concerned, and Lizette too. I was just like, there's thought that I could have like parasites in my food. I had to take the yellow fever shot. She said that we might not have water. The lights are gonna go off. Like, there's not gonna be no Wi-Fi. And I'm like, is this trip safe at this point? Like, and like, are you sure? And she was like, yeah, we're only gonna have 2 bottles a day to take a shower and drink water. And I'm like, it kind of sounds like the survival of the fittest. And Lizette was just like, you know what, just do it. And I'm like, it's easier for you to say because like you're not going. But till I actually went to Benin, West Africa, it was not what it seemed like. So literally, like I was said, just do it. And if you're scared, please talk to someone. You know, it's normal for you to have all these fears, but you never know until you do it. And for you to grow, you have to get out of your comfort zone. College is only in a few years. Why not do it now?
That's awesome. Those are both really good takeaways. And I appreciate you guys encouraging people to ask questions. And it's really true. There's a lot of people in the study abroad office who can help you. And if we're not the right person to help you, we'll get you in touch with, you know, the person who can, like you mentioned, financial aid or having someone help with your scholarship applications and things like that. You guys are both incredibly successful students and study abroad alumni. And thank you so much for sharing what you learned. I know you both are great resources for anyone who has questions for people who've done it themselves. You can always get in touch. Awa is currently a study abroad mentor for our office. So if you have questions for them, I think we have enough time. If anyone has any specific questions, maybe we could do 2 or 3 minutes right now of Q&A for Awa and Fadi. If anyone does have a question, maybe you could just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, that's fine. If there's no questions now and you think of one later, we can always do a Q&A at the end as well. So thank you to both of you. And from here, we'll start part 2 of our presentation. So I will let Jessica take over, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Thank you, Kelsey, Awa, Fadi. What a phenomenal presentation. You guys really highlighted what it means to be a study abroad student and what it means to be an alumni of study abroad and how it can impact us personally, professionally, academically. I have some questions for you guys later because, so much to dig into. And for now, we're going to start into the second part of the presentation, which is going to be virtual internships, past, present, and future. So I'm going to be co-presenting with Lyric Watson, who's here with me, joining me today. And so the global pandemic and suspension of international travel has meant traditional study abroad and internships abroad have had to transform very quickly into a more flexible and virtual format. Today, we're going to take a look at the past, present, and future of virtual internships abroad. Myself, joined by alumnus Lyric Watson, will briefly discuss topics related to our personal internship experiences and delve into how education abroad continues to engage students in meaningful global experiences. So my name is Jessica Hernandez. I'm a program coordinator at the Office of International Education and Programs here at SUNY Oswego. As an undergraduate at SUNY Oswego, I studied abroad in Ireland for a semester. As a graduate student in Oswego, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Greece, as well as participate in a virtual internship opportunity in Florence, Italy. I'm joined here with Lyric Watson. Lyric, why don't you give yourself a brief introduction?
Hi, guys. When I was an undergrad, I studied abroad twice. The first time I did London in person, and then I had the opportunity to attend a virtual internship in Ireland, Dublin. I worked at Thelma Henry Interiors, and to this day, I communicate with her and work with her to this day.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's something that we really do see with these kinds of internships is that continued relationship with employers, which is just so valuable, especially when you're looking into networking or continuing pursuing a relationship with that employer. In the March of 2020, COVID-19 stopped the world as the deadliest pandemic in the century. Hundreds of thousands of travelers were displaced, borders began to close, and the world was suddenly a different place. So once students were repatriated, heads were counted, and loose ends were tied up, education abroad began to pivot into a new realm of study abroad, virtual education abroad. And over the course of the pandemic, we have developed programs both internally and with partners that allow students to engage in a global learning format from the comfort of their own home. We currently have 7 virtual opportunities in 9 unique countries. And these programs allowed both Lyric and I to successfully complete internships for credit last year. So Lyric, our first question we're going to delve into is what was your virtual internship like when you were working on it?
It was different because I had experience studying abroad in person before, but I still feel like it was very valuable and I got to still experience the culture, especially because the program that I did it with Kappa, they have this internship class that you have to take whenever you take an internship. And my professor, he is from Ireland and stuff. So just being able to talk to him and be able to engage and kind of learn from him more about the culture was really helpful. Also, when you're working with your company or, your supervisor, they're from the country. So talking to them and they're all really nice and open-minded. So any question that you have, they'll talk to. And I remember one time, my supervisor, we would communicate through text message and she would say good girl, or she would just have certain phrases that she would say that I wasn't that familiar with. That was a Dublin thing. And then she explained it to me. She was like, oh yeah, this is how we talk. I just mean good job, very good job and stuff. So it's it was a very nice experience. And I would definitely encourage anyone to study abroad virtually, especially going back to what Kelsey and Awa and Fadi were talking about the Fs, all the Fs. I feel like that's a great introductory to studying abroad because virtual study abroad is a lot cheaper than actually going, but you still get the same experiences, credits, and everything that you would get had you gone abroad. So definitely, if there's some Fs that you can't really overcome at the moment, definitely virtual abroad is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you made a great point that you and I have both studied abroad, both virtually and physically in country. And there's just so many benefits to both. And in virtual study abroad, we really do have that cultural component that you want to make sure that you have on a traditional study abroad program. And the virtual programs, especially through CAPA and through our internal partners that we have, are really well set up and founded for students who are looking for those cultural and academic experiences on a virtual program. And you're right. What a fun way to kind of study abroad and utilize the time that we had the pandemic where we couldn't go anywhere and then still pursue opportunities. So, building that resume, making yourself, aware of your surroundings, global experiences, but also from the comfort and safety of your own home. And then as we move into that, what do you think was the major impact on you from your virtual internship, both personally, professionally, academically?
I think the number one thing for me was networking and being able to have a connection in Dublin, because after my internship ended, I was talking to my supervisor and I was kind of trying to set up her social media so that when I left, she would have someone to manage it for her. And she was just like, why would I pay someone else when you're doing a great job? I really like you. I get along with you so well. Would you like to just stay on for a couple of months? And then, we keep. So I've been, I ended with her in, I want to say June. And ever since then, I've still been working with her. She even she has a daughter around my age, and she is also in marketing like I am. And she's been sending me job opportunities. She's been sending me people that I can talk to. And she's like, if you need a reference, I'm here, of course. And just having that extra connection and network of someone that I can talk to. And she has a huge network herself, because she was where she's from, our community is very small and we all look out for each other. So the fact that she kind of brought me into that community was very that's something that I would not have got had I not done this virtual internship. And in the future, when traveling is safer and everything, when I do go to Ireland and Dublin, I have someone that I can see, I have someone that I can talk to. And so definitely the networking part was a big aspect for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't get over how well founded some of these connections were that we were developing, over the summer, over the course of a few months that we were making with these employers. And CAPA itself is a partner that we have, the Global Education Network, and they have over 7,000 placements that they have for students physically, but they also offer those opportunities virtually. And so we were taking advantage of these opportunities that we could have had, in person, had times been different, and still doing the same kinds of work, still having classes with others peers. We had social events, so they learned how to make pasta. We learned we could do a how to speak Irish class. Just really fun. We did a tour of different museums, so they had a day where we could do virtual tours of different museums in different countries. So, and we got to do them with friends. So it was we were still there engaging with our peers. So just personally, I made some friends on the program. Academically, like you said, we had a class that we did, and then professionally, what great opportunity to work with employers, especially where you can maybe have a place to stay next time you go to Ireland, or someone who can give you a reference next time you apply for a job. So really, we're seeing long-term positive impacts from these internships that students might not otherwise have had. And then the final question that I have would be, what do you think the future holds for virtual internships and programming?
I definitely think there's a spot for virtual internships, because as y'all was talking about throughout the whole thing, every student is different, and every student won't be able to just do it. You know what I'm saying? There's so many factors that go into deciding to study abroad, and sometimes it's not as feasible as one may think. So virtual, doing this virtually is a great opportunity for someone to just open up their horizons. And also specifically what I did it through CAPA, I studied, my internship was in Dublin, but I had the opportunity to attend meetings and classes for countries like Italy or Australia. You know what I'm saying? They had cooking classes and things like that. So virtually, I feel you have even more of an opportunity to see more of the world and experience a little bit more of the world, even though you're not there. Like Jess was talking about, she did the museum tours and things like that. So you still get a feel for the culture. You still have that sense of, oh, I'm learning something new. And then I do know that some programs, they do have like a virtual / in person. So like, I feel like if you're like nervous, like start off doing a virtual program, start off, you know, get to know the country that you're going to go into, get to familiarize yourself with the people that you might be going on the trip with. And then, you know what I'm saying? You can actually go away if that's something that you're interested in. But I definitely think that virtual study abroad there's a home, and there's definitely people that will be looking into it and be very interested in it, because some people do not like to go outside or don't like to leave their home and stuff, especially during this pandemic and this crisis. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's impacted people in so many different ways. So some people, you know, for a while, I'm saying like a couple years or so, might not really be comfortable with traveling. So I think virtual internships are a blessing and will really help people get experiences that they might not have gotten, you know, before. And also that opens up people. I feel like this expands people to like, it helps grow more people to like want to study abroad and introduce more people who might have not thought about it before. You know, it encourages them to think about it more and be like, you know what, I did that virtual internship, I learned so much, like maybe I should take a step and like go out of the country for the first time or something.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I loved what you said about getting an introduction to your country and then getting to explore it in person, because what a great kind of foot in the door kind of opportunity. And like, you know, when Fadi said, you know, I was really concerned about knowing how to communicate. If you have taken a few classes in French before you get there, maybe you have the opportunity to communicate more efficiently. You know, or Alice said, you know, I had this fear or like this concern of not knowing what to expect. You have really your expectations set for you because you're really ready to go. You're already in the thick of it by the time you arrive. What a really great opportunity we get through virtual opportunities. And for students who are interested, they can learn Japanese in Japan, Spanish in Spain, they intern in Ireland, and it's all from the comfort of their own home. And so they're really getting unique opportunities that are mirroring our experiences in study abroad, just in a new kind of light. I think this is really powerful for students also, students who are living with disabilities, students who physically or emotionally, mentally can't get abroad at that time. They can do these experiences, have these cultural opportunities from the comfort of their own home. In addition to that, what a fun way to say to yourself, yeah, you know what? Right now, you know, the climate or the time or the funding, it just isn't right for me, but I can still show on my resume that I'm growing, that I'm learning, that I'm seeking out opportunities. And for students, that's such a powerful tool to have. And so as a student, knowing that you can grow, knowing that you have opportunities, knowing that study abroad is here for you virtually or in person whenever you're ready, it is such an important thing for students. And so, you know, as we wrap up, you know, I want to say thank you, Lyric, for everything that you said. And, you know, as we keep in mind, whatever normal looks like after the pandemic, it will be different. There's been an insurmountable amount of change in the past 13 months, and change will continue to grow. But it's only through this uncertainty and change that we grow as individuals. And as we move forward, I hope you all continue to show interest in the wonders of the world. And when the time comes, I hope you seek out international adventure once again. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jessica. That was a really nice closing comment there. Yeah, I want to thank all the presenters, Awa and Fadi and Lyric, and really well facilitated Kelsey and Jessica. And so, I just had a couple of quick questions for the group, and then we'll have time for everyone else's questions and discussion. But Awa and Fadi, I absolutely love what you said about how after studying abroad, you're more confident. I'm just going to paraphrase and grab some of the things these guys said. You were very reflective post-study abroad, which is really impressive to me. Felt more confident that since then you're more easily able to get out of your comfort zone and not afraid, and you don't overthink things. You do things. And I realized as you were speaking that you got it. I mean, this is something with international educators and those of us who work and have researched and study abroad have known for years, that study abroad prepares you for life. It is not just about learning a language or learning one aspect of one country. The experience itself, it prepares you for life. All those things you said will help you in your life, not just with international travel. So I was really impressed that you got that. But I'm curious, after coming back and thinking, what was it about study abroad do you think got you there?
When you say got me there, what do you, in what terms?
Like the examples that again, your own words, study abroad made you feel more confident, not overthinking things, getting out of your comfort zone is more easy for you now. What is it particularly about the study abroad experience that gets a person, that got you to that place in life where you can be that confident?
In terms of like what really within my study abroad experience, what got me to that point was, I want to say, just the experiences that I was taking part in while I was there. So while I was there, I was traveling pretty much around Europe. And, when you leave like your host country and you travel around a little bit around other countries, and I went to like 9 other countries while I was there, that definitely does, eliminate fear overall, because like at this point, if you're able to just get up and just go to so many places in such a short span of time, then like there definitely isn't a fear factor there. And while I was like traveling to all of these different countries, I was definitely developing as a person every trip that I'd taken. Like one thing I love to say is that like while I was like studying abroad, like one thing I definitely was able to kind of like appreciate and kind of better understand was the value of time and the value of just freedom, and understanding that while I was out there. And I feel like when you understand the value of time and you understand the value of freedom, your confidence has no choice but to just like explode at this point, because it's like now you literally have nothing holding you back, because you understand the value of your experience. You understand the value of just seeing somebody else's culture. Like, it was very hard for me not to be confident in that exact zone. I was surrounded by so many other influential students who, already do live in Europe, and they've been traveling since they were kids. So, just being in that atmosphere where people aren't even afraid to just hop on a plane and, go to Lithuania for a weekend or go to Paris for a month or anything like that. It's like, it's hard not to just like absorb some of that energy and just do it yourself. And with understanding the value of time and understanding the value of like freedom, which are like the top 2 things that I think kind of dim people's confidence. It's like once you kind of like understand those 2 things, like I feel like your confidence has no choice but to just explode, and you just do it, to be honest. Yeah, I hope that made sense.
It made a lot of sense. Yeah, there's something about it that it is freeing. It's hard to describe unless you've done it.
And to answer your question, I think the one aspect that got me there is culture shock. And the best analogy that I could think of, as Al was talking about, like when a baby is learning how to walk, right? All they know is how to crawl. So like before I studied abroad, all I knew was like the American culture and like my Senegalese, identity a bit. But then once a baby falls down, like, it gets back up and it learns how to walk again. So like for studying abroad, like I mentioned, when I went to France, I didn't speak the language, but after a while, like I had that culture shock and that fear and being placed in an uncomfortable position. I had no choice but to be strong, and try to articulate myself. Like I said, I needed cheese. So after a while, like I learned the word fromage and I realized that was cheese. And even like, when I studied abroad to Benin, the culture shock and being immersed in a different culture, it teaches you, like I said, you have no choice but to be strong at the moment, because what you're seeing, and that's someone's reality, So like, as I was said, the value of time was important, but to me, I learned how to value like spiritual connection and just being present at the moment. So being born and raised in New York City, I was just constantly like on the go, like, okay, I got to work, I got school, I have this, I had that. But like studying abroad, I had no choice but to just appreciate the moment and just be there. So like just, sucking everything in and just immersing myself in that culture and witnessing like, dang, this is what some people have to live by day to day. Like And having the self-reflect really taught me like, dang, I have all these resources, and like not that makes me more confident in myself, if that makes sense. So like back to the baby analogy that I said, once a baby falls down, you know, like let's say them falling down is a culture shock, because when you're dealing with culture shock, you're uncomfortable, you know, it's scary. But once a baby gets back up, they're more confident now. They're like, okay, so I know I'm gonna fall sometimes, but after a while, once they start, you know, walking and running, they're okay. So I don't know if that analogy like makes sense, but
It really
that's
does.
what I got out of it.
Awesome. In fact, some of us have likened study abroad to those kinds of stages of development that humans go through. That's an awesome answer. Awesome. You know, Lyric and Jessica, I have one quick question for you, and I'm curious what other questions come. But you talk a little bit about the structure of the virtual internship. And I think for the past year, some of us who've been working virtually who never did before understand a bit better. Yeah, you can get projects done, you can get work done through technology. But Lyric, your comment about sort of the lingo, how the communication was working between an Irish supervisor and yourself was really interesting to me. And I was just going to ask to both of you, because I know you both did this, as far as intercultural learning virtually as part of the internship, how did CAPA handle that? Was there a course for that? Were you able to bring in examples to that class for discussion, processing, and debriefing those experiences so that you could make meaning out of them? How did that go?
Well, basically, when you take the internship class, that's like your main like support system, because they want to make sure that you're navigating your internship well, and that you and your supervisor are handling everything well. Like, you know what I'm saying? So basically, your internship class is really what helps you out. And the professors tend to be from the luckily for me, my professor was from the country that I was working in. So I was able to ask him questions if I needed, but also you have access to every other professor that is working with CAPA, and it's like a spreadsheet, and it tells you where they're from and what sections they work with. So you always have access to talk to someone else and ask them questions. And also there's like a whole bunch of videos and like activities, and that CAPA offers so many things that you can do to immerse in your culture that you're studying abroad in, plus others.
Yeah, and that was one of the really nice things about doing an internship virtually through study abroad, was that there was a really nice foundation already set up for us. And so for mine, I had a supervisor from Italy who spoke some English, but mostly just Italian. And those who don't know me, I speak zero Italian. And so it was a lot of communication and that we had to work on. And our professor for the class was Italian as well. And so I was able to go to her, and one of our assignments was literally talk about how communication with this supervisor has been different, and how it is benefiting you to work on your communication skills, to working on your networking skills, to working on what intercultural differences and similarities you have. And it really allowed us to be critical but introspective about our experiences as students and as young professionals. So just a really cool way to say, sometimes they say phrases that don't make sense to me. Like they said, keep an eye out. In Italian, apparently peel your tomatoes is that equivalent. And so they were like, peel your tomatoes, Jess. And I was like, you know what? I want to understand, but I don't. And so, we had some fun discussions around things like that. And it really was an opportunity that I'm never going to forget. And I will really benefit from, I think, in the future.
We have about 7 minutes left for questions and discussion.
I do have a question. I don't know if this is overstepping maybe, but I see that many of you are beautiful Black women. And I want to ask anybody how you felt and how you were able to adjust and feel comfortable in different countries as a Black woman.
Okay, I guess I'll tackle that question first. So I studied abroad in Brno, Czech Republic, which is in Eastern Central Europe-ish, right? And usually in that type of area, Black people aren't common. I think I want to say honestly, while I was in the Czech Republic, outside of visiting my family, because I had some family who lived in Slovakia, outside of visiting my family, I might have only met seen like maybe 3 other Black people, right? And most of them were mostly guys. So I didn't really see, I think I only saw 1 other Black woman while I was there. And it was definitely very, very different for me, you know. I'm from Harlem, New York. So all I know is Black people, right? I went to an all Black school. I didn't really get around, you know, other races really until college, really. So I hadn't had any other experience with other races until college. So while I was like there, it definitely was a new experience being like the only, I don't want to say the only, but, you know, in my perspective, being like the only Black person in my program. And, you know, also like kind of feeling like I was the only Black person really in the Czech Republic it was an experience. It was definitely something I had to adjust to, you know, getting on the tram and, you know, people staring at me and me trying to figure out why people were looking at me, and then remembering like, wow, for some of these people, like this is like the first time they may be seeing a Black person. So, you know, it was definitely a little hard to adjust to in the beginning. But as I kind of got like used to like just being there, I knew like it wasn't really a sign of like disrespect. It was more so just like, wow, like they've just never seen a Black person before. And I kind of like just had to view it that way. And yeah, that was pretty much it for me.
To kind of add on to what I was saying, I feel like it's kind of like, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because like she said, like she's the only, like she's probably the first Black person these people have seen, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of the cases in these countries is kind of like that. Like it's not so common to see, you know, people that look like us. So I just feel like it will be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but just keep in mind that they don't have any negative intentions towards you. They are just genuinely in shock, and they're genuinely like, wow, like look at, you know what I'm saying? So it's just be comfortable with being uncomfortable and just, you know, do it, like just do what you gotta do and you're gonna be fine. Like it is gonna have some moments where it's like you might feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm the only colored person here, but it's like, you know what, take that opportunity and take that moment to shine and show them like who we are and, you know, the type of people that, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be afraid of us, embrace us.
So for me, I had the total opposite experience. So when I went to Nice, France, Nice is more tropical. You know, when people think of France, they automatically think of Paris. So Nice is more on the tropical side. When I went to France, like people, okay, one, I'm 5'11", so I'm pretty tall and I'm dark skinned. People approached me as if I was a model. They were just like, oh my gosh, like throw a bell, or like, you're so beautiful, or can I take a picture with you? And I'm like, me? Like when I tell you, at first I was just so confused, but after a while I noticed that there weren't a lot of Black women in Nice. So I guess like that was just a huge shock. But at first I felt pretty comfortable. I was like, oh snap, like I'm like deemed as like a model over here. But that was that. And when I went to Benin, West Africa, like I said earlier, I'm Senegalese. People were like automatically, they asked me if I spoke French or if I spoke Wolof. They could just look at me and they knew that I was Senegalese. So I felt pretty comfortable. I was like, yeah, like I'm Senegalese. And then they would start talking to me in my mother tongue, like Nagadef. And I'm like, oh, magnifique, like, you know, Magni de Santiago. And I started, like, I felt pretty comfortable. At first, don't get me wrong, like when I was on the plane, it definitely crossed my mind. I'm like, well, you know, I'm going to Europe, I'm Black, you know, like racism and stuff like that does exist. But when I actually went there, it was the total opposite. So at the moment, I was just like, I guess you could say living life as a model in France. And then in Benin, I was just myself. Like when people knew that I was from Senegal, they automatically started talking to me in Wolof. And my professor that went with me, she was like, oh, like you speak a little bit of French. And I'm like, no, it's the Wolof, like it's the Wolof. But I guess when I went to Benin, it was easier for me to kind of get like discounts on stuff because they saw, like, they knew that I was African, they're African, we're both West African, and they were just like, hey, like, we were both colonized by the French. Like, I like, you're my sister, you know what I mean? Compared to like someone who was lighter skinned, and they were just like, okay, I know for sure that you're like American. So they kind of like raised the price up for them. So that was one thing. But you know, I was in love with my identity in both. So I wasn't like scared or anything like that. So you never know, like I said, until you do it. Everybody's experience is different. But I'm just glad I didn't, you know, I didn't have any problems.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking that question because it's definitely real.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like people who aren't our color kind of could easily overlook, because it's something that it does impact the way that you study abroad. And I just wanted to add on to kind of what Fadi was talking about on Hashfa Kamado. I had a friend who had went to China, and he was telling me that he went through study abroad, and he was telling me that they would like come up to him and kind of ask him for pictures and take pictures with him. And like they were like, you know what? Yeah, I will take pictures with you, because there's a lot of countries and places where there's not a lot of people. It's not like the city, you know what I'm saying? Like there's not a lot of people like us so when they see us, it's like, oh my God, are you a model? You must be famous. You must be, you know, like, so like sometimes that could be a positive, because people will treat you kind of like, oh, she's like this big model person or something like that.
I hate to cut this conversation off. It's 11:50. I can't believe it. Well, you know, the Office of International Education Programs has regular outreach programs, information sessions. And I'm sure there'll be some more during the course of the rest of the semester. So hopefully we can get you guys back for other programs or different topics too. So great. Thanks to the students and the former students for coming back and spending time with us. And I wish you best in the last month or so of school and in your careers too, okay? And to everyone else, have a great rest of Quest. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.